Welcome to Season 3, Episode 7 of the Southerners podcast, Teacher Talks, where you can get to know more about your teachers. I'm Sarah Sun, and in this episode, I interviewed Miss Campbell, an art teacher here at Great Neck South High. Hi, Miss Campbell. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview for our podcast. We have a few questions for you today. So firstly, could you briefly introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Campbell. I am a member of the Great Neck South Art Department, and I've worked here for many years. I started in 1996, so I've been here for a long time. I've seen the school change in all different ways, and it's been great to be a part of all the changes and celebrate art with the students.
That's amazing. I know the art department is like a really significant part of South High's culture. So why did you decide to become a teacher?
I wouldn't say I intentionally set out to be a teacher when I went to college. I was, going to be an art major and had dreams of, being a famous artist, and I'll paint and do all these different things. And I was an art major, but when I went to orientation at school, they had all the you'll see when you go to college, all the tables out with all these different programs and things. And one of the things that was offered was you could be an art major and an education major, or an art major and a business major, and pretty much graduate with 2 degrees in 4 years. So my mom said, pick one. So I was like, I'm not a business person, but I liked to play school when I was little, and that was really, so I have to say it wasn't my intention, but it was like the universe found a way to bring education to me, and I studied both and found a way to combine the 2 together, and it was meant to be because it brings me a lot of joy.
What led you to come to South High in particular?
Once again, my mother. I initially worked at Holy Trinity High School in Hicksville, and that was my former high school. So when I was graduating, the principal of the school, he said there was an opening and would I be interested in interviewing for a position there. So I interviewed, and I got a position at my former high school. I taught there for 3 years, and my mother encouraged me to look at the world with, in a broader way, and go on interviews at other places, like keep moving forward. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't really into it, the idea of it, but you listen to your mom, I'm sure, most times, right? Sometimes, and I sent my resumes out, and I got an interview here. I was hired, and it was a big change for me because I went from teaching in a Catholic school to a public school, which I had no experience with teaching in, or I attended Catholic school my whole life. So, it was a big change and eye-opening in a good way. And once again, I feel like things happen and they're meant to be, and I loved it. Thankfully, the pieces, fell together.
Well, we have you here now, so
yeah.
A win is a win.
It's a win. It's a win-win, I guess, both. But yeah, I love it. I love it.
So why did you decide to go into art? Like, were you really into it as a child as well?
Yeah, I would say art was my sport. I admire athletes and always kind of watched my friends from the sidelines playing sports, and I wasn't very good at it. And I'm okay with that, but I always just took a liking to holding a paintbrush, or playing with Play-Doh first and then moving on to clay and things like that. It took me to another place. It calmed me down, and my parents were always very supportive, so I took art lessons as a child, or went, did classes and things like that, and it was just something that I fell in love with.
Did you have any art teachers that inspired you growing up?
My dad, although he wasn't my teacher, my dad likes to create and make art as well. He always encouraged me, and my mom, obviously, but he likes to do art and would do art with me and found classes for me to take, and he was my biggest fan and my first art teacher because he would do art with me, so I'm going to go with my dad.
That's amazing. And now to get a little bit more into the art side, so I know we have a lot of pieces that you made here with us today. So do you want to go through, talk about your creative process, what inspires you to create art, and some of your pieces here?
Okay. My artwork goes through phases. Different things hold my attention. So sometimes I paint. I've been liking to sit outdoors and paint nature in front of me because I do love to be outside.
Do you want to show the camera?
Oh, okay. I didn't.
That'd be cool.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so pretty.
So this I did over April break on a nice day like today. This was at Heckscher Park in Huntington, and I just sat outside and tried to capture the fleeting moment. So I'm not into like precise details. I like to just capture like a moment that's passing. So I do love to paint, and I would say that was probably my first love, and I do love painting. But I also love to work in mixed media, which is combining art materials together to become one piece. It's almost like doing a puzzle for me, and my brain kind of just goes in this different way and takes my mind off things, and I make connections with color and line. But I always love walls in the city when I'm going for a walk. I'm always with the person, talking to the person I'm with, but I'm very distracted by the walls that I see, and I'm very intrigued by them. And I like the ripped papers that are on there, and how there's a poster maybe for a concert, and it's ripped off, and then someone else slaps another paper, or there's one lost cat, that kind of thing. And it makes me think that these walls all tell a story. And I love the idea of a wall telling a story, and the idea that it's all different people's stories kind of slapped onto this one wall.
And New York City sort of like contributes to that because there's so many like walls covered in like stuff in New York City that could be like inspiration.
Yeah, totally. I took a trip to Italy, and the walls there, they also had a story. I can't read any of the story, but I can appreciate the beauty of it. So I love that, and sometimes I feel like the photograph says it all. Like I'll print out the photos. But I also then sometimes try to combine that wall with my own stories. So I use, I'll start with the photo like a blank like this, and then I add cut papers and papers that I collect to it, and make connections with color and line to form my own wall. So I really have been enjoying doing this, and it sounds silly, but it's very satisfying to rip the paper too, because you're creating these lines and shapes, and it doesn't have to be precise and perfect, because I do want to imply that it's like the city walls. And it really helps me feed my hoarding kind of passion for papers. And I brought this whole bin. This is a bin of random papers. I see them, I collect them, I save them. Like this is a song my son wrote. I don't know if he knows, it's like on loose leaf, things like that, lollipop papers. So much stuff in here.
So with all like your own art, how do you what is your process for inspiring students to create their own art, and what do you hope they take away from your classes?
For me, it's important, of course, to teach them about art and how to create and process. But it's also important for me to instill a confidence in finding what I call like a visual voice. So a way to communicate without necessarily using words, but how can you communicate a message or a feeling, things like that, through your artwork, and have the confidence to do it in your own way, where it's special. How a singer has a certain voice, like you think of a certain singer, like as an artist, we all have a certain voice and a way to communicate, which is so special. Sometimes it takes a little confidence to express yourself that way, and I hope to develop confidence and love, because then beautiful things happen.
That's amazing, because personally, I'm not really well entrenched in the art world, but I play an instrument and I do creative writing, so I feel like there's some parallels, just expressing yourself through that way.
Totally.
Yeah.
There's all different ways to express ourselves, and they kind of cut through one another, I believe.
Yeah, it's all part of the general creative world.
And I think it's very important to find that voice that we have within us. Yeah.
So aside from art, what are some of your other hobbies or pastimes?
Lately, I really like to go hiking. I discovered hiking on Long Island. I went, I like uphill hiking, but I've done that too. But during COVID, when we were all looking for something to do outdoors or like distance, I got an app on my phone called All Trails, and it gives you put your zip code in, it gives you all different trails that you can check out. So I put my zip code, and it gave me all these suggestions, all these places I've lived here my whole life that I didn't know were there, that are just so beautiful. I love to spend time with my family. I have 3 kids that are a little bit older now, so to get us all together at one sitting, like at the dinner table, is not as easy anymore. So when we are all together, I enjoy that.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm only in high school, but already it's hard to get the whole family together at the dinner table or have those moments. And also, I need that app to the hiking trails. That seems really interesting.
It's amazing. I don't know where it was my whole life, but I use it a lot.
So my next question is, what is your best memory from South High?
That's a hard one to give just one, because if there was just one, then that wouldn't be so great, right?
You can give multiple.
So the things that I love about working here at South High, I love the memory of working with my department each year and collaborating, meaning planning lessons together, we share a room. It's almost like, I have sisters that I'm sharing a room with and making things work.
One final question for you.
Okay.
What is the best thing about working as a teacher?
So many things. Once again, like the memories. The best thing about being a teacher, I never have to grow up. I can be in high school forever. No, I have to grow up. But actually, keeping I enjoyed high school, and keeping the love of all the things I loved in high school alive, and continuing it, and watching other people, hopefully fostering a love of learning and community. I feel it in my classroom with my classes. I feel it outside of my classroom with my colleagues. Once again, the best part of being a teacher is being a part of something bigger than myself, being a small part of students' lives, and knowing that I'm affecting them in some way, and hopefully good ways, watching students grow into mature young adults, sharing my love of art and the different ways we can create art. My way of creating isn't always everyone else's way, and kind of opening eyes to the different ways we can create and share messages and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. That's all for our interview today. Thank you for your time. It was amazing having you here.
Thank you.
This podcast is brought to you by The Southerner, Great Neck South High's newspaper. It is hosted by Sarah Sun, directed by Amelia Liao, and edited by Janice Lee.